Hot Water History, episode 206, Wednesday night after Easter. Richard, what's going on?
We're receiving and going to be addressing a lot about epiphanies. That is, say, revelations or special mysterious experiences and insights that we might receive in contemplation, meditation, prayer. These are focused events wherein a particular insight, hopefully guided by the Holy Spirit, and we just need to test that with the constant tradition and teaching of the church to make sure it fits and is consonant with it. And it is a marked contrast between the people of God who are afforded these great points of revelation and clarity versus the demoniacs who are guided by malignant and altogether evil, demonstrably so, spirits. And I'm especially thinking of as we're in the middle of this weird situation wherein you have a schizophrenic president and a chief executive of the United States government who is like Dr. Trump and Mr. Hyde. It He vacillates and goes back on words, but then he's arguing about principles and agreeing to some 10-point proposal that explicitly says that the ceasefire is contingent upon Israel and the United States not continuing the war against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And within 12 hours of the proposed ceasefire, we have our brothers and sisters, both Christians and Muslims, in southern, but also just Beirut, Lebanon, being massacred by Israeli bombs, many of them afforded to them by the United States. Those bombs you and I materially cooperated with by submitting, albeit legal plunder by theft, taxes to this demonic regime. That's the opposite of revelation. That's the opposite of Holy Epiphany.
I was going to ask how Holy Week and Easter were.
Well,
Start.
I have to. Can I share? Let me share my impressions and take from Holy Week and Lent. And I looked forward to engaging in Lent this past year, this past Lenten period, 40 days plus. And the Easter Triduum was spectacular. I attended Tenebrae service and then Good Friday service. The veneration of the cross always gets me in Good Friday. I did the, and forgive me, I just am doing this for educational purposes, not to by any means indicate some sort of super piety, which it clearly isn't. But I followed in your footsteps, and on Good Friday, I didn't eat all day. Just did the water
Mm.
fast, and by God's grace, fortitude afforded to me by the Holy Spirit, I didn't really feel pangs of hunger until later that real late at night. So it was actually more than a 24-hour fast, but it was just toward that end of the night where I really started getting a little bit, in a very minor way, in a slight degree, uncomfortable. But and it was just a grace just to add that a little bit of suffering and sacrifice to our Lord's in honor of him. And then I can't wait to hear what you have to say because yours is much more spectacular, let's say, of your experience of Holy Week or experiences during Holy Week. And last year it was kind of odd. I attended with the family the Easter Vigil, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it was where we were sitting in church or what have you, or the people who were surrounding us, it just seemed to go on forever. And it was awkward and kind of stunted. It didn't flow as much as this year was just smooth and it just seemed very quick. And it's not as though there are marked changes in the liturgy. We had just as many, if not more, catechumens and neophytes entering the church. So for what I don't know what it was, but it just was, there was a great deal of calm and peace and indeed contemplative pleasure that I took from Easter Vigil this year. So I'm glad I went. I was contemplating skipping Easter Vigil and just going on the Sunday this time, but it was just a reminder about the beauty of that liturgy, albeit it is in the Novus Ordo and like, but we go to a parish where we found the elephant of the Reverend Novus Ordo. So I can, given the other circumstances and the setting itself and the doctrine that's explicated throughout your experience in our parish, then it makes up for it. Whatever other deficiencies are inherent within the liturgy as a result of, oh, good old Vatican II.
Were you here for Holy Thursday or somewhere else?
I was in town, but there was no way with work schedule and other things that I could make the Mass of the Lord's Supper. I did go to a local parish and pray at night. So again, a bit of tenebrae.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is in Father's homily, he says, and I'll never forget this, Christ gave his life so that we could have lives worth giving away.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's right. Well, I have to applaud Father Tom because that was, and whether it was purposeful or accidental on his part, it was altogether instructive and revelatory for me, and I'm sure it was for those who were in the congregation throughout the Triduum especially. But he had been emphasizing something that was so centrally patristic or in the theology and worldview of the fathers of the church, from Irenaeus to Athanasius and Augustine, this reverberating theme of the marvelous exchange. And Athanasius put it so succinctly, God became man so that we might become God. And this theosis, this process of theosis of becoming divinized, closer by reflection and sharing in the essence of God himself, who came to share in our essence and nature. Well, that was a resounding theme throughout all of his preaching leading up to the Triduum in Lent, and then was really hammered home in the uh, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, that is, say, Easter messages. But I want to hear more about something.
Well, let's pull up this one video
Oh,
first because I think this will warm up my story a little bit.
a prelude.
I also just think this is pretty badass.
Okay.
Let's start it here. We'll do the sound off. We can keep it in later. The Madonna that runs away of Sulmona, Italy, is one of the most striking rites of Easter Sunday. The Virgin, dressed in mourning, advances toward the square and, upon seeing the risen Christ, begins to run toward him. At that instant, her black mantle falls. She appears dressed in green, and doves are released, symbolizing the passage from sorrow to joy.
Yes.
This is just pretty sweet. It'd be awesome to be one of the runners.
Well, I like thinking too about the doves, is that the dove being a symbol of the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit was comforting her from Good Friday onward and was present with her in a nearly identical way as when she conceived. So, both at the earthly bookends, if you will, of Christ's life, his conception and then death, the Holy Spirit is the great comforter and is always informing the Virgin, who, with special ear because of her Immaculate Conception, hears the guidance of the Paraclete with such utter clarity like no other human has. And that was she was the perfect human manifestation of someone who hears and responds to the Spirit of God and lives that out with perfect virtue, right? It's just quite wonderful. And then of course one of the real marks of the Holy Spirit is joy. Yes. So this exuberance that is symbolized here with the statue of Mary clad in black and mourning. And then once I love how the men are carrying her, and then she kind of catches sight of her resurrected son. And what does she do? Just like a mother would, she just bolts for him, right? So we can play the video if you want at this
Yeah.
point, Charlie. But
And the
yeah,
doves in the background.
right. And then she's
Awesome.
clad in green, symbolic of verdant life and everlasting life. And then yeah, I love that scene where they slow down right as they're approaching the statue of the risen Christ, and they have this beautiful shot of her just slowing down and just like kind of slowly lowering herself in humble supplication to him. It's just I love it. Maybe that's a must do is go to Sulmona, Italy, just to see and see that and
Eastern
partake in that.
Salmona.
Yeah, Eastern Sulmona. When I was living in Rome, I wish I knew that I didn't. That was the first time I had ever seen that. And there are similar rites or rituals, I should say, that take place throughout Italy, but especially in or throughout Europe and the rest of Italy, but especially vibrant, as you might suspect, are the ones that are in the Mediterranean, southern European area.
Okay, I want to tell you my story.
Yes, please.
Palm Sunday, driving in my car. I like to do the rosary in the car. I'm on the highway. It's a bunch of traffic, so I space out for a little bit
Hmm.
as that happens when you're praying the rosary and driving in
Hmm.
traffic. And I don't know if you've ever been here at the church for one of the Chicago, I don't know the exact organization. It's either Chicago City Tours, Chicago Architecture Tours, but the church is one of the stops on the tour, right? And it's a really cool day of the year. You get people that are seeing our beautiful church for the first time. It takes you back to the first time that you were there.
Hmm.
And not all of them are Catholics. Some of them are just wanted to see a cool building on a Saturday, right? Or just heard about this from somebody else, but you could tell that they walk in pretty amazed at the beauty and detail of it all. And so I have this, I don't know what to categorize it as, if you'd call it a vision, if you'd call it, I probably would just say like a spiritually charged daydream, to be honest. But it was very clear. And the daydream was that, and I'll help out on the Saturday, hand out brochures or welcome to St. Mary's. And the daydream was that it was one of those days, but there's a time in the Saturday afternoon where everything starts to die down a little bit. It's kind of done for the day. You could tell the last people are still in the church, but it's kind of closing time, right? And I had this daydream that it was in that period, but as things are starting to wrap up, Jesus and Mary walk into the church.
Mm.
And it was very clear Jesus was wearing all white, Mary was wearing all navy. Mary in her humility, I couldn't really make words of what they were saying to each other, but Mary in her humility was slightly embarrassed by just how grand it all is.
Uh-huh.
Similar to when somebody sings happy birthday to you. It's a little awkward, but you're
Mhm.
happy that at the end of the day, you're happy that this is all for you, right? And that this is a blessing that's exactly the type of embarrassment that she had. And Jesus was just super pleased and similar to when you get a Mother's Day gift and you just know you nailed it.
Sure.
That's how
That's
Jesus
amazing.
was.
Uh-huh.
And Jesus is he's he's talking about, I don't know what he was talking about, but he was impressed by the condition of the church. And he was more, I like to think that he was comparing the carpentry of those poor old Polish immigrants to Joseph. And
Hmm.
he was going around, he was more interested in the kind of the details and the, the
Hmm.
blueprint of the church. And they were going around and keep in mind, this is Palm Sunday. So all of the saint statues in real life are covered. But in this, they weren't covered. they were going around similar to how people on the tours go around, but they were telling stories and joking about each of the saints.
Hmm.
And I couldn't really, like I
Those
said,
are,
I couldn't really hear what they were saying, but I could tell they're going around kind of joking and chuckling about this saint's life or what this saint is like now, or
Mhm.
and that really was a special kickoff for Holy Week for me. That doesn't happen every day.
No.
I talked to Father about it. He said, "Well, one, I want to write the whole thing down." But I said because I could have missed something here that I did write some stuff down that night after it happened because I'm never gonna forget that. That's actually the reason why I took this is uh people might think this is performative because this happens all the time, but I deleted the social apps. We'll see how long it lasts because as much as the reels and the constant messages and the posts that I see every day, as much as that might bring me joy, or it could be just a great moment or a heartfelt thing that somebody thought about me and they wanted something to send to me. I'm never going to experience something like that on Instagram
Right.
in an Instagram DM. That's what Father was saying about how when we create more silence, that's what he said is when we create more silence in our lives, we leave more room for
Yes.
experiences like that.
Hmm. It's putting up the spiritual antenna. What was this? What did this bring you? What were your sentiments as you experienced this?
I was just so happy, honestly.
The
I was
happiness.
so
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
so happy about that. And then just right away, I just said, what am I? It was Instagram, Twitter, delete. We don't need these right now.
Hmm.
And then it was because obviously it's leading up to that was Palm Sunday, so we're leading up to Good Friday. And I'll be honest with the all the Lenten practices and extra work. I knew I felt like I had to finish strong with my fasting and what I was giving up because especially towards the end before Palm Sunday, I could feel myself getting a little lazy.
Hmm.
And so that was a little bit of a kick in the butt of joy and um, I guess a debt that I have to repay, right? For that.
Maybe. Or it's just that God gifted you with this experience of his
I felt that I had more to
real
give.
presence.
I felt that I had more to give on Palm Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. And it's me. Well, it's that his felt and experienced presence that moves you to like a someone who's a true lover of God responds by there was a I'm thinking of a quote from one of the greatest popes of church history, and that's Pius V. Just happens to be a Dominican. But Pius V said, and I love this quote, he said, Lord, increase my sufferings so as to increase my love for you. Increase my sufferings so as to increase my love for you. So that, yes, it's not as though obviously Christ came to eliminate our temporal suffering, but he certainly came and redeemed it, gave it direction and purpose, whereas it was simply just an outgrowth before of our fallen state and how warped and wounded our natures had become. If there's suffering that results not from sin as a type of spiritual pain reflex, but indeed ties us and binds us more closely so as to increase our love of God and neighbor, well, then he not only showed us the way of how to embrace that, but made it redemptive. And only God can do that. Only God could take something out of nothing, ex nihilo, and make it a path for salvation or toward holiness that leads to salvation.
Right. So I'm never gonna forget that ever.
Well, I'm so happy that you had that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, it was great. So it ended up
Hey,
being a great Holy Week.
sure. And as you we're pointing out, the more you quiet your surroundings, the more there's entry points, doors that open for God to enter in. Just be ready for those experiences wherein you're going to have a real spiritual test, right? Because he might allow something along as you grow in holiness and you grow in virtue and your contemplative life matures, there will be dark nights. John the Cross and Saint Teresa Avila were especially instructive on these points. Saint Teresa of Lisieux. It just happens to be Carmelites. They're always really good at this. Those dark nights of the soul that are like fire, refining and testing and stealing your resolve and dedication.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be aware of that, and that's where our faith is strengthened further. It's he gives us the balm of those beautiful instances, and then also gives us the vinegar as he took it on the cross, and so as to steel our resolve. So just remain faithful in those times. Those are the and then you'll find and discover an even greater depth, a new room in the spiritual interior castle, again going toward back to Saint Teresa of Avila, a spiritual castle that you're building up that will your life will start to resemble and be even more made manifest, and you'll feel comfort as a in a Pauline sense a true heir of Christ in his Father's house. So you'll just resemble a true Christian ever more so.
Amen.
And strengthened by the sacraments, especially confession, that just allows you to build up an even more beautiful edifice, and one that the forces of hell will never prevail against. So,
Is there a sacrament that speaks to you the most?
well, it's the Eucharist, but um, if I was to say secondarily, it
Oh
would be
yeah, secondarily, right? So
yes. So
father's got
secondarily,
the marriage handbook. So matrimony could be
matrimony.
like
It's not
what would your handbook be if you had one?
probably holy orders
Oh,
because it's through the priesthood that we have a truly we have the other sacraments. So it's it's the means by which, aside from baptism, that we are able to attain the graces. So a deep and profound sense of and cooperation with wonder and awe, the gift of the Holy Spirit of wonder and awe, fear of the Lord, and understanding the magnitude of his power so as to create a holy priesthood that will offer the sacrifice on Calvary for the salvation of the world and for individual souls. And the fact that he, as God, allows men to be in his stead and be in his person so as to affect and help people remember and commemorate and really enter into the mystery of his salvific act on Calvary again and again and again. And if you truly enter into that sacrifice, there's not 1 ounce of it, if you see with the eyes of faith, that will ever lead you to ennui or distraction or boredom. Although we're always prone to that given our nature, but that's what's so again profoundly beautiful about the old rite and the Roman rite pre 1962 or 62 before in the old missal and the celebration of the Eucharist, because there's just it's just so chock full of symbolism and meaning and typology that you it's it's aesthetically subtle, but because it's subtle, when you really understand what's being done and can be a true student and investigator of what the mystery, the unfolding mystery on the altar, then it's just out of this world. Now it was a great savage attack that Bunini and all the reformers, including Paul VI, just eviscerated the old mass and left it hollowed out of all of that sacramental mystery based revelation and the mystery. So,
I think mine would be confession.
yes,
I'm most moved by confession, I think.
right. In a sinner out the saint.
Yeah. Dismiss in the passion speaks to me a ton.
Yeah. What was your confirmation name?
George,
Oh, okay. Why'd you choose George?
his feast day is my birthday, so
Oh, okay.
that was it.
It's a worthy great saint. Yeah.
Yeah. I would have
The
chosen
Dragon
somebody. I would
Slayer,
have chosen
which
somebody
were
else.
dragons were real.
I would have
Dragons
chosen,
existed. Dragons were real.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. You wish you would have chosen someone else?
Yeah, I probably would have got Michael or
Oh,
Joseph.
okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure George is still happy you chose him to
Yeah.
honor.
He doesn't get a ton of he doesn't get a ton of picks.
You should.
Yeah, I know.
You should. Hmm.
Yeah,
And the people of England need and all those
they do
nations who
need.
call upon him as their
I
patron.
take that back. I
Armenia.
feel bad I said that now. I'd
I think
like to
George,
see.
I think our both Armenia and Georgia have Saint George as patron saints. So the Caucasus Christian nations.
Yeah,
So
I feel bad I said that. We might have to edit that out. I, I take it
that's
back.
staying in.
I'm not trying to face this guy.
I
I'm
I
gonna have to
can't wait
face
till
this
you.
guy.
I'll probably precede you, God willing. But I can't wait to be there when you enter through the heavenly gates. And St. George is waiting there going, really?
Yeah,
Come on, Charlie. I mean, what do I have to do for you? Kill another dragon?
right.
You know? Do I have to
Yeah,
defeat Satan again or his minions again? I don't know.
yeah.
And then
Well,
he'll do the replay of what actually happened when he slayed the dragon.
yeah,
He'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, St. George. No worries." Something like that.
yeah,
Welcome into your eternal reward. Now let's go ride horses, heavenly horses or something. You know, they do something cool with St. George.
yeah.
Yeah.
Chicago, Illinois. You want to talk about Chicago, Illinois now? You want to come down from heaven and talk about
Let's talk about
Chicago?
the profane.
Yeah. Where do you want to start with first, Illinois or Chicago?
Let's go from the general to the specific.
Okay. That's Illinois. So this is the amount of this is the state with the worst gap between population growth and spending in the last decade.
Illinois. So you've what this for those of you who are just listening on audio, let's just do a brief descriptor of the chart that Charlie's displaying. And that is this is a chart from it's based upon Census Bureau data. And what it shows is a red line from 1915 to 2025 that tracks spending. And that is just the spending in the, what is it, billion state spending by the billions, right? In Illinois. And it's quite wild. Even again, mind you, this is adjusted for inflation. So from 2015 to 2025, state spending growth, inflation adjusted, is up 72%. So, I mean, that's wild that it would go up that much. It's nearly doubled. It's nearly doubled in that span of time, right? Meanwhile, in the last decade, Illinois' population growth, net population, is down 1%. You got almost twice the amount of spending, right? But and actually that's more cumulative. I mean, when you think about it, for example, the chart shows is 2015 the spending was $65 billion. And again, adjusting for inflation, we go all the way to 2025 and it's $152 billion per annum. Now again, what's remarkable is when you consider that with inflation, that's only a 72% increase, but it's a 72% increase. You would expect in such a situation that the state, let's, and we can chuckle out loud or just interiorly, that the state would have more people to serve if the budget went up that much. I mean, naively thinking that expenditure should be increased according to the number of people that the government serves. I know I can barely say it. Yeah, I could barely even spit it out, the language like that. But there it is. And so it's just the question being, do Illinoisans, given their tax burdens and the services that are provided from roads, infrastructure, parks, public schooling, all the supposed things, even DMV services that Illinois citizens in the public sphere are to partake of, do they feel as though those services have improved markedly, even to a 50% rate? And of course, no one would argue that. I have to tell you, as I was looking at this chart the first time, immediately I had the experience of attending a wedding of a relative at the Chicago Cultural Center. Now, for those of you not from Chicago, Chicago Cultural Center is in the heart of downtown. It's just smack dab in the middle of the loop. It's a little bit on, I shouldn't say that. It's a little bit on the south side loop, but by a block. I think it's on Washington and Madison. Yeah. And it's right on Michigan Avenue as well. Well, in one of the rooms where the reception was held, you're able to look out on the major streets. And I was looking out on Michigan Avenue northbound from Washington. And we're in this magnificent building. It was a bit scandalous to me that the room we were in was clearly dedicated to Union victories, and it was funded, the creation of it was funded by veterans of the Civil War because all of the Union victories, Fort Donelson, supposedly Shiloh, Gettysburg, Vicksburg, they were inscribed on the walls, around the walls. So it was kind of making me kind of grossed out, given that I'm a Southern sympathizer in the war. All that being the case, though, I had the experience of looking out the window, and the contrast couldn't be any greater. And we'll get into this a little bit more. We've already spoken about the decline of Chicago culture, civilization, economics, just the city as a whole. And I looked out the window and there were gigantic potholes on Michigan Avenue. And instead of resurfacing them, they just patched them up. It the curbs were all beat to shit. There's garbage out on this supposedly one of the supposedly cleanest cities in North America is Chicago, big cities, and it looked like a city that had been left behind, especially by those who are supposed to be in charge of managing it. So where did all the money go? Well, it went to corruption. If the services are no better, in fact, worse to absent, even including, for example, police and fire services, well, then where did all the money go? It's not going to any more people. It had to go to the kleptocrats in charge. What I'm trying to say is that's a great, this is the state graph. We'll get to the city one in a moment because I asked Grok to do the same thing and create a purely city of Chicago graph of this nature, measuring population growth versus state spend or city spending. And Charlie's going to show you that in a moment. But this, I think that those graphs or these graphs are explicit. They're self-evident of a city and state in decline. There's rot here, and it's not just economic rot. The economic rot is a cause and indeed an effect of the deeply moral, immoral, the moral, spiritual, civilizational, cultural rot that is more maybe below the surface.
This is funny.
Yeah. So same chart, except here now we're doing Chicago, and you see population in 2015 of Chicago was about 2.72 million. It has this marked decline, and it goes from 2015 to around 2019. There's this marked decline, and then it almost in a parabolic fashion just goes at about what a 75, 80-degree angle straight up to 2.74 in 2020, and then shoots even at a more drastic angle and then somewhat less drastic angle down to 2022. So I asked Grok, well, what's the reason for the rapid incline from 2019 to 2020 and then down to the lowest population mark, which was 2.584 million in 2022. And the reason for that, Charlie, is simply because, well, what happened in 2020?
COVID.
Well, okay, yes. Now, COVID is going to be a cause for why the real number goes down so spectacularly because people, in terms of demographics and movement, they became
Oh,
much,
the
they,
election. Yeah.
well, no, it's not, well, it doesn't have anything to do with election, it's the census. So the
Right.
census
Right.
officially counted all these people just before COVID hit. And then when COVID uh, came about, and you had all of this movement along with the general actual accounting. So this is just a statistical anomaly, the 2.74 million jump, right? It's only because the way that the census counted who was a resident was much more liberal and all encompassing. So a case in point would be if you were a student who happened to maybe reside in the city for a semester, they would count you in the census as a resident, as a permanent resident. Um, and then I should note another, as we're looking at the population line from 2022 through 2024, why was there this immense peak again? It actually, the numbers go up by almost gaining about 50% from the losses. What do you think that is?
This,
Oh,
how often is the census? It's not that.
it's every 10 years.
Right. So
So
it's not that.
this is a so the anomaly, the counting anomaly is gone because we're not looking at a census anymore. What do you think caused the rapid uptick from 2022 to 2024? You know what it is. Think. What happened in between 2022 and 24 under the Biden regime?
Ukraine.
No, migrants.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
we forget about that.
Oh my gosh.
So the migrants started getting bussed in. And so because they were housed largely in the city, you have this boom population uptick, and they were considered residents. Then you might be saying, well, wait a second, why are they considered permanent residents? Well, of course, uh, Democrats and the people in the city want more federal largesse. They want more representative power. So they're counting the migrants as, even if they're not, permanent residents. So the numbers are going sky high from that point on. Well, they reverse some of the losses from the official counting of the census. And then what happens 2024 because migrants were moving out or repatriating to their original countries, or there was just simply a perceived fear that ICE might be coming to arrest them or something like that. You have this tick downward. Now, of course, what you also have to keep in mind here is the immense outmigration from the city and the state of long-term residents. So I forget what the year was, but I think it was between 2015 and 2025, a million residents left Illinois. And the vast majority, I shouldn't say vast majority of them, the preponderance of those residents were from upper income stratas because the level of taxation has become so punitive and so omnipresent and really punishing that, yeah, people are leaving. I mean, we have a 10.5% sales tax in Illinois. So they tax your income as it's coming to you, and then they tax the money that's already been taxed when you actually use it for what is the final end of currency, and that is the means by which you can obtain goods or services. And then we haven't even talked about the red line. City expenditure 2020, 2015, $8.5 billion dollars. Adjusted for inflation, but let's give the real number in 2025, 18 billion. That's more than double the expenditure. Inflation adjusted, it's approximately 80% in increase. Has the population gone up? No, net, it's gone down from 2020 or 2015 by about, well, almost 130,000 people. What do you, what is your take on this?
It's what we talked about this when you talked about expatriating,
Yeah.
about how it's kind of dead now and how the the value is just, and I think I brought this up before, that it's gotten so shameless in the post-COVID times
Yes.
that I don't think they feel the need to defend this graph.
No, that's the, and that's maybe the most revelatory thing about it. When the political class and elites feels no compulsion to actually explain or justify their criminal expenditure and usurpation of the public, that's when you know you're living in decline. Or it's one of the sure signs you're living in decline.
And population growth in general being negative over a 10-year span
Yeah,
isn't,
right. Aside from the counting anomalies and the fudging and with the figures,
it's not the marking of a healthy society.
it's the mark of a very sick, diseased, corrupt society. And one where, in point of fact, opportunity, which is a hallmark of a vibrant city within a growing civilization, or if not growing, then self-sustaining, let's call it. This is the opposite of that. I mean, for example, I wonder if I was to somehow gain the same type of figures from what, for example, say something like, think of a city that kind of went down the shitter. It would, I mean, if I put Detroit in the 1970s and 80s, we'd see a similar graph, right? Moreover, if we went even further in history, the times in which, for example, London was either growing and there was immense opportunity and vibrant and emerging businesses, industry, commerce, what have you, versus the time where post-war, prior to Thatcher, you had quasi, if not near complete socialism. You'd see the same type of relation between population and governmental expenditure within the different municipal and state arenas. So the potholes aren't getting filled,
No,
but it's
you got
more
more
expensive
money
to
to do
live
it though.
here
Yeah.
and you're making less money.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So we can move on.
Well, I think that's all we had before getting to the people segment.
So am I making a better case to you for expatriation or
No,
because
because you got to compare it to something else. You can't just,
well I could we could comp it to okay, and this is maybe you've touched off here why I'm more adamant about leaving the United States altogether
okay,
eventually.
so that part, that's moved me a little bit.
Okay, so let's say,
Is that if you leave Chicago, you might as well just leave the country.
well,
Is
no,
that
well, but to your point, I'm going to steelman your argument here. There are vibrant and growing metropolitan areas. Of course, they tend to be in the states where there's a paucity of regulation, there's little government, very laissez-faire, dispositions toward starting businesses and entrepreneurship and stuff of that nature. Low taxation. So, yes, if I go to Asheville, North Carolina,
Yeah, but that's Asheville, North Carolina, though.
okay, what if I went to Nashville, Tennessee? I mean, the problem, of course, is that that's becoming very progressive as well, and you're going to see similar. I mean, the thing is, the Nashville population thing is going up as their expenditures go up. So at least the lines are going in a similar direction.
Okay, so one
But
of
here's
the
the problem. Wait. Here's the problem.
okay.
If I go to the places that are vibrant and are showing economic potential and growing prosperity, those are also the places that are Christian Zionist, by and large, and culturally corrupt and morally bankrupt. So where am I going to go? I mean, I'm gonna. These are mainline Protestant and evangelical dominated areas, and I mean they're still. I mean, this murderous idiot in the White House is enjoying still in these areas 50% approval. Half of the people there are actually thinking this guy's good. Uh, yeah, and there's no moving from that, it seems, that identity. It's become an identity, their Christian Zionism. So why be associated with that?
Right.
Was that what you were going to say?
Well, I was going to say one of the things that I liked about your original point is that we were talking about the war and you were saying, feel, I feel the need. You basically were saying, I feel the need to get as far away from all of this
Right,
as possible. That's one
right.
of the stronger cases that I felt.
Uh-huh.
Right. So that's you.
Yeah, why? It's now, and this is was my point before, and then we can move on to the suburb that for the moment shall go nameless. And that is, I don't want to be associated with this. Why? It's no different than, although, like I said in the previous episode, it is a bit different because of the material necessity of migrating from old European enclaves like our predecessors and ancestors did to an area that was growing and vibrant and offered division of labor, potential, an accrual of capital that wouldn't be lost in the fiat scheme and central banking yet as our ancestors arrived here. Now, all those things are now present. America has become kind of old, decrepit Europe with those institutions and with the corruption, especially of the Catholic Church in the United States. And so, where can you go that you're in the same spirit going to embrace itinerancy as our ancestors did? Say, this sucks. Well, it's for me, it's Chile and Malaysia. And I'm not moving off those yet. The more I can't help it, I still look at what's going on in these societies and these cultures, these urban and even rural enclaves within these countries, and it's just quite wonderful, frankly. And then it just so happens, as I said last episode, I think for a moment, well, maybe some sanity is returned. We have a ceasefire that's over in 12 hours, and in the middle, the internecine period there, intermediate period there, I look up in the sky and there's someone spraying it just right above my head. So what do you do? And then you tell people, as I sent you the link, that now there's a whole movie on Amazon about Frankenskies and the spraying of the clouds, and it's being allowed to be promoted on Amazon. And nothing's doing it. No, was anyone outraged about it? Is there some, if you asked 10 Americans, hey, you see the spraying the clouds thing? What are you talking about? Those are contrails. Those are where the jets get the clouds in their streams and then they push them out. Okay, well, what do you do? It's the same thing of not just the contrail or the chemtrails, but a great tweet was put out the other day, and it said, "How many Americans know that there are churches and actual synagogues in Iran?" And I just responded, 1 out of 100, because Americans are dumber than a bag of cat hair, by and large. I mean, we're supposed to be so advanced, and 74% of Americans are considered like literate at an eighth grade reading level, whereas Iranians, it's 99%. Who are the savages here, right? I mean, if you ask people in Iran, are there, do you think there are mosques in America? They go, what are you, an idiot? Of course there are. But your average American here is so altogether consumed with maintaining and guarding their status of living that, and especially in their professional life or what they worship really is their status, that never enters into their mind. That maybe I'm being propagandized about who the Iranian people are. Should I challenge this notion? Oh, no, no, no. I'm not going to challenge this notion because that could interrupt my whole worldview. And that would mean I'd have to say that from Walter Cronkite to Peter Jennings to David Muir, maybe these guys weren't in the CIA, but they were. They all were. And they all are. So, all that before Oak Park. Sorry.
Yeah, let's talk about the meanwhile, or let's talk about the people's segment.
Why? Did you not like that rant or you
No,
just
I
look
did.
okay? You just look
It
like,
sounds
"Nah."
like we're closer to the same page, actually. Well, I didn't want to break your heart, but I found this out the hard way. Chile had some bad weather reports, some bad cloud reports out of Chile. Now, I obviously haven't been there, I haven't seen for myself,
Mm.
but some bad cloud stuff out of there,
Well, here we go.
supposedly as well.
It
Just
requires more investigation for
just
sure.
letting you know before you up and go to Santiago that they're looking at lines in the sky as well.
Yeah,
So
the problem is you go to Santiago, better than that, you look up in the sky, but then you look down, there's some beautiful Chilean señorita.
do you want to
Not to
talk?
mention the food.
Yeah, how's the food?
Well, Chile is one of the largest exporters of fresh vegetables and fruit in the world. And the number one exporter of copper, which
What
is,
about
by the way, going to be
steak?
needed. What's that?
What about steak?
Oh, yeah, meat products, fish. There's a reason it's called Chilean sea bass.
Yep.
Want to get fancy?
Yeah.
Is Chilean sea bass a fancy dish in Santiago or Valparaiso? I don't know. Maybe
Do
it's
they
just
just
like
call it they just call it bass? They just call it
walleye,
fish.
right? Perch.
Yeah.
Hey, you want a bluegill? No, I'll have the Chilean sea bass.
Yeah.
That's really a delicacy down here.
That's an interesting question.
Hmm. I actually know a Chilean woman. Um, I should ask her about that.
If they just call it, hey, do they just call it sea bass? They
Yeah,
just
so
call
when
it
you go
they
to a
just call
fish
it
fry during
fish.
Lent in
Yeah.
Chile, is it sea bass? Like, hey, all right, this is fantastic, right? It's not just cod.
Yeah.
You know, a 4 week old cod that you get at Knights of Columbus fish fry.
Right.
What? Oh, what's the fish thing? It's cod again. Oh, great. Cod are just the catfish and bottom feeders of the sea. It's
Yeah.
it tastes okay, I guess. Sorry, we keep getting to.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about a town that has a lot of lines in the sky?
Oh, definitely. Yes. And if you would think that they'd be doing lines off a table because of insanity.
Here it is.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
Should go to your gay suburb now.
People segment. Meanwhile, in Oak Park, brought to you by Trenton Brewing. You're drinking one right now. Is that
I
Quartermaster
am.
Jerry?
Yeah, Quartermaster Jerry. Delicious. Thank you.
One short one, one quick one. Or sorry, one short one, one medium one. Getting late. Oak Park Bank's ATM robbed of over $55,000. That's a bigger lick than we hear most of the time.
Wow.
55K.
That's a lot. Sometimes I go to my local ATM and they're out of cash.
Not the
Not
Oak
in Oak
Park Chase
Park.
Bank.
I
Not
guess
the
because people are rolling up, with their Jaguars, they're taking out 600 a pop.
Oak Park police are investigating an incident in which a group of robbers stole tens of thousands of dollars by targeting a local bank while a staffer was doing maintenance on an ATM. An employee at the Chase Bank location in the 900 block of Madison Street was servicing an ATM with the machine's door open when three men stepped out of a new white Nissan Rogue with paper registration and removed five ATM cassettes containing stacks of cash. The suspects then fled south in the Nissan on Clinton Avenue, according to the police. The suspects reportedly made off with $55,000, 568 in cash, according to police.
Wow. Well, that's quite the score. I would wonder if, come on, this the maintenance guy had to be in on it, right? Would you think? I don't know. Maybe I'm being.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
Oh,
who don't they? I mean, aren't they? They're not armed, I don't think, but they have defensive measures that they can. Maybe they can't. I don't know what they're trained to do.
Oak Park police are also investigating after reports of a late night shots fired incident on the village's eastern edge last week. This says shots fired incident. Police believe that a man stepped outside the passenger side of a sedan in the first block of Harvard Street and fired several shots into the air just after 3:30 a.m.
I thought you were going to say for sure it was a white Nissan Maxima. What was the previous one? What was the car?
Oh,
A brand new
Nissan Rogue.
Nissan Rogue. Yeah. They took the 55 grand and they went on a shooting spree. That's what wild party, wild party.
Police recovered four shell casings at the scene. DUI arrest. Oak Park police arrested a Chicago man for driving under the influence in the village last week. Police arrested 28-year-old on charges of driving under the influence in the 1100 block of South Kenilworth Avenue shortly between 10 p.m. on Sunday, March 29th. So,
There's the blotter.
not as eventful as this one.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
River Forest president, Aducci, meets Pope Leo the 14th. Chicago native pontiff familiar with local Catholic institutions and parishes.
And he's saying to her, hey, the Pachamama's back. You want to sneak out and do a little worship?
Once in a while, the actual event exceeds intense anticipation. For River Forest Village President Kathy Aducci and a practicing Catholic, that moment was April 6th when she met Pope Leo the 14th in Rome. As a member of a delegation of over 20 mayors and civic leaders from across the state, Aducci met the pontiff in Clementine Hall, located on the southern second floor of the Apostolic Palace in Vatican City. The event was coordinated by the Illinois Municipal League. There are a few moments in life that stand out from the rest, and this was one for Aducci. The obvious question, what was he like? Quote, he was very gracious, he was very engaging, Aducci said. He acknowledged everything. She had a
Huh?
chance she had a chance to talk to him about the village and its four Catholic institutions, Dominican University, Trinity High School, St. Luke, and St. Bernardine Parish, and St. Vincent Ferrer Parish. Since Pope Leo is a native Chicagoan from South suburban Dalton, was he familiar with River Forest and those Catholic institutions and communities? Sure was. He said, quote, I know where that's at, she said. I asked each of the institutions to write letters that I left with the Pope. I handed them to his team. He also blessed a bag of rosaries Aducci brought from home from friends and family. Aducci went to St. Elizabeth Seton High School in South Holland, not far from Dalton, and used to spend a lot of time in that community growing up. After they discussed River Forest, she explained that, and his eyes widened, she said. There were even a few moments of levity. The Pope is a White Sox fan, and he said they need some help. They're struggling, said Aducci, who also visited the U.S. Embassy in Vatican City with the delegation. But there was more to this meeting than blessings and reminiscing. The Pope gave a moving speech, so much so that Aducci took plenty of notes. Quote, he basically said there are many tasks that vie for your attention each day. She said, I would encourage you to listen to the poor, the immigrants, and the least among you, seeking to accompany them in your work to promote the common good for the benefit of all.
Yeah, let's not mention Jesus.
Aducci, who personally paid for her trip and traveled with a friend, flew out of O'Hare International Airport on March 28th, arriving in Rome the next day. Flying over, the anticipation was palpable. You felt like Monday is going to come. How is this all going to work? She said. You look across these mayors that run big cities. We were all anticipating. How do you address the Pope? One thing she learned was the Vatican requests women wear a veil and a dark suit. Quote, a priest that was with us, he gave mass while we were in Rome.
He gave mass.
And during one of the homilies, he said, we veil the people we feel are holy. We believe women are holy, the mother of God. That
Huh?
really resonated with me.
Okay.
Of
Yeah,
course, as
wait,
village
wait, wait. So men aren't holy? It's just a dumb statement. Children aren't holy?
Of
Okay.
course, as village president, Aducci has many responsibilities, but in her view, it wasn't hard to make the decision to travel to Vatican City, especially during Holy Week. It was a very easy decision, she said. It wasn't an inexpensive decision, but it was worth it to meet His Holiness, to spend any time at the Vatican, just Rome itself.
Well, plus the taxpayers of River Forest paid for it.
No,
So.
she paid for it. She paid for it.
Oh, did she?
Once
Oh,
I
that's
was asked
sweet.
to join the trip, I absolutely said yes, I will make it happen. The result was a key takeaway that Aducci has contemplated since returning. Quote, I think it's about working together, she said. Any problem can be solved if we work together with the goal. We work together for the common good.
No, that's patently false.
Quote, we can and we should. We can solve our problems if we work together and not find fault. So
All right. She's dumb.
that's the people segment.
Yep. There it is.
Meanwhile in Oak Park.
What would have happened if I'd gone for it and just said, no, I'm gay? Meanwhile, no Park.
Yep. Brought to you by.
Trenton Brewing.
Yep.
The two world leaders. I'm
Oh, two world leaders.
right there.
Yes. The conscience of a nation meets the Pope.
Yeah.
There you are. All right.
That's all I
Well,
got. I had fun.
that was cathartic for me. I needed to let loose a little bit. I did.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anything else?
Well, that's it from my perspective. We haven't had a guest in a while.
I know. I was thinking about that
Ages.
the other day.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get our recruiter
Yeah.
on it.
We'll find somebody soon.
Yeah. Sounds good. Someone who wants to talk to us. Or at least gets fooled into talking to us,
Still.
then realizes their mistake.
Still.
Yeah, still. So, all right. God bless you, Charlie. We'll see you next time.
All right, everyone. God bless.